Good afternoon. What's up, y'all? It's 10-3 time in Tennessee. Welcome on into the show today. Wes Rucker coming to you from the WBIR, the 10 Streaming Center, the one that I've tried to give a nickname to, and so far not winning that battle. But, you know, it's a battle, not a war. You know, we'll see who wins in the long run. Welcome on in. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're having a good day. It's been a beautiful day, at least to this point. When I walked in today, it was really, really, really nice outside. Like, hey, at some point we might be losing the ice caps, but these 70 degrees days in November in the meantime are not bad.
It's beautiful.
They're not bad.
Again, it's been a beautiful few days.
They're not bad. Loving it. We got so much to discuss. Got Tom back there again on the ones and twos. Tom Barclay, the Lord of the Streams.
Always great to be here.
Which I am going to call him Lord of the Streams, and we're just going to have to deal with that. And I'm trying to figure out also just a quick heads up here. I am sitting a couple inches, I think, too far away from the table from where I normally am.
Okay.
And I'm trying to move it, and it's not wanting to move so much. So I'm kind of working on the posture as we go here. Head on a swivel. It's live. It's live television, live broadcasting. We got it figured out. No big deal. We got a lot to discuss on the show though today. If I can get my posture correct. Good news for Tennessee with JP Estrella. We're going to talk about that. There was a lot of fear there, obviously, with the way he went down and the way it looked and his emotions, which you could understand given what he had been through in the past year. So we'll talk about that. As we keep mentioning, it is Tennessee-Florida football week. Like, it is. Tennessee goes to Gainesville in just a couple of days, right? Like, it's here. And in Florida, they're talking more about, who's going to be the coach. Are they going to be able to get, Lane Kiffin and his family are down there? Can they get him? LSU's in there too. Like, so they're not bowl eligible. Like, there's a lot going on down there.
Very low-key Gatorhater week.
Yes. Like,
very low-key.
And Florida basketball is the reigning national champs and another contender for the Natty this season. And so they're talking about that and who's going to be the new football coach and all these other things. And by the way, ho-hum, one of the SEC's better rivalries, at least of this century, is heading that way in a couple days. So that's interesting. Tennessee, of course, not having won there since 2003, which quite a long time. And fun fact, I was covering that game, and I think my one of my colleagues, Emily, was maybe 2 years old, maybe, when that happened. So, and I was covering it. So that tells you how old that I am getting. I started in the business at 17, but I'm pretty old. So I covered that game, and that was the last time Tennessee won down there. And since then, I've covered a whole lot of Tennessee losses down there. So there's been a lot of stuff to talk about there. But in Gainesville, and I understand this, it's like, hey, who's going to be the next coach? Who's that coach going to be able to keep from the portal? What's the recruiting class going to? Is it going to be able to hold together? Straw poll. Who even knows the name of the interim coach down there? I do, but if you were to right now, like person on the street, if we were to talk, and this would have been a good idea, walk around Market Square with a live camera and just ask people, do you know who the name of Florida's interim football coach? By the way, I'm saying maybe 10% would know it. Maybe. It'd be a small sample size, so it wouldn't really be the most scientific poll ever, but you would walk around Market Square now. By the way, who's Florida's interim football coach right now? Who's the acting head coach? People would be like, I don't know. 10% tops would probably know that. So but it is Tennessee-Florida week. Tennessee's still favored by about 3.5 points. I still don't think Tennessee wins the game because I've seen a billion losses in a row down there.
Come on.
Listen, here's the thing. I've said this, and I've said this all week. I'll say it again. I do not pick Tennessee football to win in Gainesville. I just don't pick it. It has to happen more than it has happened for me to ever really start picking it. And given the situation, would I be shocked? Would I be shocked if it happened this season? No, I wouldn't. But would I bet a penny on it? No. And I'm not like a sports bettor except for the annual NCAA bracket stuff in the office that we do, which I guess, it's technically illegal, but you'd have to put everybody in jail for doing it because that's what we do. All of us everywhere do that and always have. And so there's that. And then fantasy football, like with my siblings and stuff. But other than that, like in terms of like games and stuff, I don't bet. I'm not ethically opposed to it. I just don't do it. But if I were, someone who did that and you said, would you put a penny on Tennessee winning Gainesville? No, I wouldn't. And maybe you would, and that's cool. That's, hey, they say it's a new year. In Tennessee, the interviews this week, coaches and players, it's new year. None of that stuff matters. The interviews down in Gainesville with the acting head coach, interim head coach, some of the players, they're all saying, hey, the past doesn't matter. It's a new year, yada, yada. That's Tennessee's a good football team. Everybody's saying the past doesn't matter. I've heard that for 20 years. For 20 plus years, really 30, even before I really got into the business. Every year, Tennessee's, the past doesn't matter in this series. It's all in the past. It didn't matter, yada, yada. 30 years I've been hearing it. Hadn't changed really anything going on down there, especially. It's now, if they were playing up here this week, I'd pick Tennessee to win by touchdown, 10, 7, 10 points, something like that. Down there, every year, Kentucky football playing Tennessee football playing Florida. Every year, those teams in those games do things they do not do the rest of the season. If you were to make a list of like the 10 dumbest football plays that I've seen in my time covering Tennessee, at least 6 or 7 probably are against Florida. Probably. That's just what happens in this series. So, again, I'm not – there'll be times where I say I think Tennessee's going to win this game. In basketball, football, baseball, hey, I'm not being negative here. I'm just saying, like, if you were to put a gun to the dome and say, what do you think? Anytime Tennessee's in Gainesville playing football, I think Florida wins. So we'll talk about that more as we go on today. Also, congratulations to Zakai Ziegler. Should have mentioned this earlier. He is going to play for the Puerto Rico national team in basketball. So I covered the young man for 4 years. Did not know he was eligible for the Puerto Rico national team. Candidly, hand in the air. Didn't know it. I didn't. And not that I walk around just asking people, by the way, hi, it's nice to meet you. My name is Wes. Are you Puerto Rican by chance? It's not like, they're usually the first thing that comes up in conversation. So I didn't know that he was eligible to play for the Puerto Rico national team. It's kind of funny that there is a Puerto Rico national team because it's American, but not a state, so it's its own national team. And so, hey, if we merge those in baseball, we'd be in good shape. Merge Puerto Rico baseball, we're in good shape there. But he's going to play for the Puerto Rico national team. And where he's been playing is over in the Paris suburbs. He's been playing in the French league, Nanterre 92. That's probably the worst pronunciation ever. But it's in the western suburbs of Paris where it's located, and it's a good club, and he plays there. And the French league is a good league, so that's where he is. Congratulations to him for playing for the Puerto Rico national team. That will be a way for him to keep playing basketball occasionally in the States. So they're going to play a lot of games here. So that's good to see and fun to see, and I hope that that's a long and fruitful relationship for both of them. But we will start first with JP Estrella. Good news for Tennessee there. And I think we need to be careful about this. I don't think that it is necessarily just like a bone bruise. I don't know if just calling it a bone bruise is the best way to do that, but it is a situation where that's the main thing that it is. The main thing that it is it's a bone bruise. So we'll see on the length that he's out there. I was hoping to get some of this the sound and audio video from the pressers and everything today before we went live, but they haven't been uploaded in time. And again, I've said this yesterday. One issue that I'm gonna have here is that the time of this during basketball season is going to be that when we're doing this show live every day, it's going to be a couple times a week when basketball pressers and practice are going on. So, we're going to have to be kind of flying blind in some ways there, and we'll get the news, and whether it's Tom, Maddie, whoever's producing, we'll be looking it up, trying to get that info as we're doing the show. But just frankly, because of the way the timing is there's going to be times where, we might be learning it at the same time. If you're listening and watching to this, there's a chance that's going to happen where it's going to be, oh, there's the text there. That's what's going on. So we'll monitor that. But I don't want to put a timetable on that. We'll see if we get information on that, but it's not like a long term deal. So obviously Tennessee's got big games coming up the next couple weeks. Tennessee State is not one of them. Tennessee State tomorrow night, which I believe Elijah and I will be down at the Food Center covering that game. So we'll be down there for that. Tennessee's going to be fine without Estrella in that game. They're okay. I'm glad Tennessee's playing Tennessee State because too often Tennessee plays all the other teams in the state and not Tennessee State. I'm glad that they've gotten some stuff worked out to play those guys finally. They're doling out checks all over the state for some of these other schools, and I'm glad they're doing it, but Tennessee State needs to be on that list, and I'm glad they're getting their check this year. But Tennessee's going to be okay in that game without Estrella. That's not a big deal. But coming up, you look at that schedule coming up next week in Vegas, playing Rutgers to lead off. Then you're going and playing the next day Houston in the Elite Eight rematch. That's a huge basketball game. And then you're playing another probably quality opponent the day or two after that. There's not a lot of weak teams in that Players' Championship field. And then after that, you've got some big ones coming up. You got Syracuse. It's at Syracuse up there in the Carrier Dome. And then you've got after that, I don't want to say hosting Illinois because it's in Nashville, but they're basically hosting Nashville in Bridgestone Arena, which is good for Tennessee anytime you can play in that building because you're going to play there in most SEC tournaments. And occasionally there could be NCAA regionals and things there. So, yeah, you want to play in that building every time you can. Plus, you're the flagship program in the state of Tennessee, so you need to be playing in the state capitol from time to time. Not football, I don't think, unless you can occasionally do maybe the Titans' new stadium. You could get some stuff there. I don't love neutral site regular season football games. I just don't love them, but I understand why you would do that. But in basketball, yeah, I get it. Yeah, you want to be playing in Bridgestone. And the time they're doing it, when the students are out on holiday break, it's a perfect time. Because the energy in the building's never the same when the students aren't there. The students aren't there, you're not, and it's just it's a different time. It's a different energy in the building. So that's good to go ahead and play that game there. But that's a big game, and so we'll see if Estrella's ready to go for that. And then after that, you're pretty much getting ready for SEC play. So Tennessee's kind of ramp-up time ends tomorrow. If you're listening to this on a Wednesday, then it's tomorrow. If you're listening to it on a Thursday, it's today. But Thursday, that's basically when the ramp-up season ends, and you got to go get ready to play the bigger games, the ones that you've positioned yourself to play. So if you're Estrella, you don't want to miss this time, but after what he's been through, and if you had told him and everybody around him at that moment when he got hurt that it was just a bone bruise, and you offered them that deal, they'd rip your arm off, shaking their hand on that deal. I mean, there was, I don't know if you've seen the video of it, but Danny White was sitting near courtside, and when he saw Estrella go down, Tennessee's athletic director sighed, said a word that I probably can't say on here, and then slapped the snot out of the seat that was next to him. He was like, "You got to be kidding me! You got to be kidding me!" He was lit up from that, and so everybody else was sort of having similar vibes. And so if you told them then, hey, that this is what it is, they'd accept that. Bone bruise, maybe a couple other little things in there, but nothing torn, nothing broken. Not that a bone bruise is a small thing. I mean, go outside and hit your knee with a hammer and bruise that bone and see how you feel. You probably don't feel very good, but it's a lot better than, something torn in the knee. It's better. So, yeah, that's pretty good news there. We'll see how long he is out, but that is good news. I also mentioned Zakai Ziegler and that news. That's a lot of the basketball news for today. We have been heavy on basketball the past couple of days, and you understand why, because you're like, hey, it's Florida week, but there's stuff going on. Estrella, that's a big deal. That's a big deal. I mean, that's Tom. You don't think we've done this wrong, do you? Like with this Estrella thing, like. And Florida game being what it is this season, it's like it's weird to say this during a Tennessee-Florida football week.
It does seem weird, but I think I've talked about it in the past. It's like this year the Florida game's a lot later than it was in recent years past.
Yeah.
It's been about almost a decade since it was this late in the season.
Yes, I think the last time I can remember it being this late is the 9/11 year.
Oh wow! So
Like I remember that was the year that
more than 2 decades then since we've.
Yeah, that was the 9/11 year when it got moved back and Tennessee goes down there, and of course this being Tennessee, Florida, even when something good happened, something bad happened. Audio is going in and out here in my pocket. I gotta
Don't
figure
worry
this
about
out.
it. It sounded good on my end.
I gotta figure this out. I don't know what's going on in my pack today. I'm gonna work on this, Tom. But even when Tennessee, Florida, knowing this series, like the last time Tennessee went down there, this late in the season was 0-1. They were heavy underdogs. I don't know if it was double digits for sure. And then little Travis Stevens ran for about 542 yards in one game, it felt like, and a bunch of touchdowns. Tennessee stuns Florida down there. The team flies back, and there's a celebration when the team gets back to Knoxville, and they're walking around with roses in their mouth because all they got to do go beat LSU in the SEC championship game, and they're playing for a natty, going to the Rose Bowl. And then in that game, Tennessee hurts LSU's quarterback. The backup comes in, lights them up. Matt Mock running around. Old Matty Mock running around, can't be stopped. LSU stuns Tennessee, Nick Saban's LSU Tigers, and they win the SEC title. And so even when Tennessee goes down there to Gainesville and something good happens, then something bad happens just because it's the vibes are what they are. But it's just weird that it's Wednesday. It's weird, first off, that people probably don't know the name of Florida's coach right now. That's weird. But it's also weird that it's just like, nobody's kind of talking about this. Like there's, neither of these teams, obviously Florida's not going to a bowl. Tennessee almost certainly not going to the college football playoff. And so it doesn't have the luster that some of these other games are going to have the next couple of weeks with all these things. It's just not. Now here, it's Tennessee, Florida week. So people are going to wake up Saturday ready. Like people are going to wake up Saturday and be like, all right, I'm going to see those uniforms. I'm going to get mad. I'm ready to go. It's down there in that viper pit of the swamp down there at night. Gonna show these old boys from Florida a thing or two. Like that's gonna. But in the build up to it, it's kind of like, oh, how's Estrella's knee in basketball? What's going on? Like there's just what's going on with Caldwell and her bunch. Like they're gonna get things kind of back to where they kind of should be, and all that's the talk. That's the talk. But you listen to Florida and Billy Gonzalez. I took a couple notes from his presser. Like I didn't go pull the audio because I was like, does anybody even know who this is? We got to put it's Florida's coach. We got to put his name on the screen because people aren't going to know who it is, right? But he did say that he thinks the team understands the seriousness of this rivalry. He said that he believes the team will be excited to get ready to go compete and play, and that at the end of the day, it's a Tennessee-Florida game. So they're going to be ready to go, and they're back in the swamp. So for them, they're, it's their first time playing, I think, in the swamp in like a month. So, or close to that. So, or this month at least. So they're, he said they'll be excited about that. And I mean, their season now comes down to their coach has been fired. They don't know what's going on. Nobody knows who's going to be there and who's not as soon as the season ends. And it is going to end for them in 10 days. And so they're hosting Tennessee and they're hosting Florida State, two of their three biggest rivals, in back-to-back weeks. So they're trying to kind of rally around the flag for each other and win the game, which is a smart thing to do as a coach because it's the only thing you can do as a coach. That's the only way. If you're looking at this from Florida's point of view, maybe three things. But the biggest thing is that you can rally those guys around playing a rivalry game or two rivalry games in back-to-back weeks, Tennessee this week, and then no matter what happens, you get Florida State coming to your house the next week, so you're getting excited for those games. And a lot of those guys in that state, obviously, on that roster come from that state, so they're Florida and Florida State, doesn't matter what the records are, they're going to be excited to play. And for Tennessee, you would think it's the same thing, but for the in-state guys down there, it's probably not. But if those guys are on that Florida team, if they've been on that team for 3 years, the past 3 years, and this is their fourth, they've lost to Tennessee twice. If it's their second year or third year, they've lost to Tennessee once. So these guys have lost games to Tennessee. And they got that treatment last season in Neyland where it was a really good game. They made some big plays. They lose the game. So from their point of view, you remember that stuff. And they did say that at Florida, basically during the summer, what they do is they kind of cycle it, the big rivalry games during the summer. And so they keep playing those games like on a loop in the complex and show players from time to time. And then when it comes like this week, it's Tennessee week, they're going to have film sessions where they're just going to show this stuff. And not just highlights from the past couple years and last year's loss and all that. They're showing like, the old days of like, them lighting up Peyton Manning and sacking him and, the Hail Mary down there, a couple years ago and, the Jabbar Gaffney catch, no catch thing, like all these years. So they're playing the highlights and the lowlights and just letting people know, by the way, here's the list of guys in this rivalry who have become like NFL superstars, guys that played in this game. And it's not the most like classic SEC rivalry because they didn't start playing every year until 1990. And by the way, this will be Tennessee's last trip to the Swamp until 2029. So things are about to change. Remember, they've gone to the permanent opponents in Tennessee, Florida, understandably, was not prioritized like some of the others were. Like if you're Tennessee, the ones you got to play, in my opinion, are the ones the SEC gave them. Alabama, Vandy, Kentucky, in that order. Those are the three you got to play. And those are the ones that they got. I think they got it right. But because of that, this will be the last time Tennessee, they play Florida until 2 years from now. And then it'll be the last time until 2029 that they go down to Gainesville. So kind of a sad way for the annual part of this rivalry to end up.
It's odd. It's very odd.
Bit of a sad sack bowl, you know, but considering what the rivalry has been.
Mm-hmm.
But these things go in cycles, right? I mean, before Tennessee played Florida every year, like Auburn was a much bigger game. There were times where other things have mattered. Like the evergreen things for Tennessee over the years are those three that I mentioned. Those are the three biggest. You got Tennessee Bama, which is historically the most important game in Southern college football. Historically. Because the Iron Bowl they didn't play for a long time and Auburn wasn't as consistently kind of good as Tennessee was, and there's in terms of the for 100 plus years they've said you don't schedule a wedding or a funeral on the third Saturday in October because nobody's going to show up, not even the priest or the reverend. So there's no deep connection in that way. But for people of a certain age, let's call it, I don't know, 45 and younger, maybe. People 45 and younger. Florida, for some of them, might be number one on their list. Now, I think I'd say people like 45 to 30. People 30 to 45 probably, Tennessee fans. That group of people, more of them would list Florida. People under 30 are back to Alabama probably as the number one. So, but historically speaking, it's not the most significant rivalry for Tennessee. But there for a good 20 years, especially 10, 15 years, it's the biggest game in not just the SEC, but one of the biggest games in college football every single season. You made sure it was circled in a Sharpie nationally every September. Circle it in a Sharpie. Whoever wins this game might be playing for a national championship. You could set your watch by it there for a while. So if you're of that age, then yeah, it's, and we where I came from, we did stories like this and did polls and talked to people, and everybody else, a lot of other people who have covered Tennessee have done it. Because of where Tennessee is located, what's it, 7 states, I think, that border Tennessee? I think it's 7, and I think that's tied for most in the country. And so Tennessee's rivalries are different from a lot of other people's in that where you live in this oddly shaped state determines maybe who your biggest enemy is.
It's actually 8.
It's 8? Okay, there you go. 8 states. Eight states.
It is. I mean, Tennessee is such a long
Yeah, it's
state.
weird. Like it's like it touches like Missouri.
It's because you got your Gulf states below us, right? And they're kind of evenly, and then it's
We're just we're a weird shaped state.
yeah,
where it's a long,
weird shape,
it's
and then Missouri with its little panhandle down
yeah,
there.
the really interesting. Like I think if you asked a straw poll of Americans, do Tennessee and Missouri touch each other? I'm pretty sure more than 50% would say no, but they do. They're for just a couple miles, but they do.
Yep.
And so, but where you live determines maybe who your biggest. Like if you live in Chattanooga, it's going to be Georgia, probably maybe Alabama, but a lot of Georgia. If you live in North Georgia, or probably Georgia's your biggest. You know, you live south of Nashville, it's obviously Alabama. You live in Nashville, it's probably still Alabama, but could be a little bit of Vandy in there. And then north of there, you're getting close to Kentucky. And if you live in Jellicoe, it's Kentucky. You know, if you live in the Tri-Cities, you know, you might just really hate Virginia Tech because it's taken some players from Tennessee over the years, you know, back when Beamer was there, and they were, and maybe now with Franklin going there, we'll see if they get there again. But, and then if you live in Memphis, it might be Ole Miss or Mississippi State, who you just really don't like, probably Ole Miss. And so it just, there are like 4 or 5 that could qualify as like these are the big ones. But for Tennessee fans of a certain age, 30 to 45, maybe, somewhere around there, a lot of them would say Florida, and I can't say they're wrong. I technically fall into that age range, but I just say Alabama just because I'm a history guy, and, you know, like football didn't start being played in the 80s or 90s or the aughts, you know. It did. That's not when football started being played. Like, history matters, and you know that we live in a world where things almost start to not matter to some people anymore, or no perspective of what's gone on before. And I'm going to sound like an old man real quick, but it does matter. And in this world of super conferences and, you know, title sponsors run amok, and, you know, all the stuff that we ghouls in the TV industry are doing to the game, you know, all these things. And despite all of that, some things have to matter. Some things have to be sacred. But for Tennessee, the fact is, if you were to only pick 3 to play every season, historically speaking, with Tennessee, the league got it right. Now, as a consequence, that means that Florida's off the table as an every year thing, and that it sucks. It does, because that would be number 4 for me. For a lot of people, it'd be in their top 3. For some, it'd be number 1. But historically speaking, and I would say for Tennessee's long-term health, probably a good thing that it went the way that it went. Now, it's easy to say that because the past few years, or a couple years at least, I'm still trying to work on this posture. The past few years, past couple years at least, Vandy's been better than Florida. Now, is Clark Lee going to stay in Nashville forever? I doubt it. Is Diego Pavia going to have any more time at Vandy after this season? I mean, I doubt it. I'm pretty sure not, but this time last year, I wouldn't have thought that he'd have been here this year. Now, can they keep repeating that? Like, can Clark Lee keep repeating that? Maybe. He's a heck of a coach. And I'll tell you this, their general manager, Barton Simmons, a guy who's a former coworker of mine, great guy, knows exactly what he's doing building that roster. Knows exactly. He was one of the nation's best recruiting analysts for years. And you talk about a smart hire, Vandy getting him in there a couple years ago. He has done great work. You know, getting them a competitive roster of guys who physically and between the ears and with their kind of competitive spirit fit in what they want to do. And so I think if Clark Lee and Barton and those guys stay there, they're going to keep being relevant. Now, are they going to consistently be like competing for a playoff spot? I very much doubt that. But if Vandy ever wanted to flex its endowment muscles into NIL, if it ever wanted to flex its endowment muscles with facilities, then yeah, it could be a factor consistently. Will that happen? I mean, I don't know. College football has been played for a long time, and very rarely there's been pockets in there where Vandy was relevant. Historically, not so much. So let's say I tell you right now, you can either play Vanderbilt or Florida the next 10 years. I don't know a single coach. Who would say, "I'll take Florida." I just don't know. I don't think that would happen. Now, that doesn't mean you're right, because Florida obviously is not as foolproof a program as we thought it was. They've kept getting it wrong and not being quite as good as they should be with coaches. And even when they get it right, like with Meyer, they burn the thing down on the way out the door. Which, by the way, speaking of Urban, he will be honored for his Hall of Fame induction this weekend. So, speaking of guys who, are nemesis of Tennessee over the years. But if you said, hey, I would like to win games, I would like to have more games in a calendar. If I'm a coach with millions of dollars and my future on the line, yeah, I'll take my chances over the next 10 years playing Vandy every year. Because Florida gets it right with a hire, boom, right back to being Florida. Vandy, a lot of things have to keep happening for them to keep being anywhere near what they are. It could happen. And I know a lot of people, a lot of Vandy fans who have suffered for a lot of years, Tom. They've suffered for a long time. Their sports life, with the exception of a few years there in baseball and women's bowling, they've not been great. Had some moments in men's basketball here and there, had some moments in women's basketball here and there. But just historically, it's a sad sports existence.
I mean, I'm a South Carolina fan, so I kind of understand.
Your words,
exactly,
not mine. I didn't say it.
I'm just being honest. I'm not going to hide that. With
Don
South
Staley,
Carolina,
what?
Similar situation.
Don Staley, what?
A few years there, we're top of baseball, and obviously women's basketball right now is a big deal.
It turns out being a really great baseball coach doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be a great athletic director.
Yeah,
just saying, Ray Tanner. Just saying. So yeah, but you understand.
Absolutely. Like I said, if there's a team I can understand, it's Vandy.
Yeah, and so that's but there's a lot of things that they're going to have to do to kind of keep that being what it's been, and so. I would rather play Vandy every year. And I think historically it's the right thing to do. But you do that and something's got to give. And what's had to give is Florida. And it would be great. It would be great if both of these teams were college football playoff contenders going into this game. As it is, Florida's not even going to a bowl. Tennessee, 1% chance of getting back into the playoff picture? Just don't have quality wins.
Right on the cusp there.
Just don't have quality
20,
wins. Right? That's what's going to come down to is they don't have, Vandy at home, if they win that game, would be the best win. And there's other teams that I think would have. Right now, go look at Texas. And I think Texas will lose to A&M and go to at least 4 losses, so that won't really matter. But if you look at Texas's schedule and Tennessee's, Texas got 3 wins better than Tennessee's, I think. And so that's why this week is the first time that Tennessee has, when Tennessee had 1 loss, it was the highest 1-loss team there for a while. When Tennessee had 2 losses, it was the highest 2-loss team. And then when Tennessee had 3 losses, last week at least, it was ranked the highest 3rd-loss team because you could make that argument. But this week, Texas is ranked higher as a 3-loss team, and it should be because it's got some maybe worse losses, but it's got better wins. And so that's what's going to happen. Some of these other teams, if you're a Tennessee fan, you're thinking, hey, some of these guys are going to drop down to 3 losses. Those teams are going to have better wins. So I don't see it. I also don't, frankly, see Tennessee winning. I don't see Tennessee ending the season 2-0. I think Lou, my guess, and it's a guess, I don't know. Remember the rules of the show? There's a difference between think and know. I don't know what's going to happen. But what I think is that Tennessee loses in Gainesville and beats Vandy here. And so at that point, you're clearly not a playoff team at 4. There's not even a conversation. So, yeah, it would be nice if this game were relevant. At the end of the day, 7:30 p.m. Eastern on one of our competitors' networks, the ball's going to get kicked off in the air in Gainesville, and you're going to have a Florida uniform playing a Tennessee uniform. And for that period of time, you'll be locked in. Like my good friend. Can't wait to have him on the program at some point. Spencer Hall does some stuff for SEC Networks. Got his own shop down there. Does some awesome stuff. Known him for years. One of the funniest people in all of sports media. Some of the jackets he used to wear to SEC Media Days, my goodness, they were magnificent. Love the guy. He calls this week always Tennessee Hate Week, and he has different posts every day because he's a Florida guy. But I haven't even talked to him this week. I haven't swapped messages with him, and it's like. That's weird. That's weird for this week. That's weird. I think I've swapped a couple texts with a couple people I know in the business, colleagues who cover Florida, but it's honestly been like, so what's going on with that coaching search down there? It's not been like, hey, thoughts on the game this weekend, fellows? It's not on the top of anyone's mind. It will be Saturday, and it should be. And who knows? We got 2 more episodes this week. We'll dial it in. We'll like Rick Barnes said to Jalen Carey last week, you know why you're sitting on the bench? Because you're not dialed in. Dial in, you'll be back out there on the floor. So we'll dial in. We'll get there. But it's sad that this is the final annual Tennessee-Florida game, at least for a while. Can we not sit here and just be honest about that and say it's kind of sad? With all the great moments in this rivalry. And I say great, obviously from an objective point of view. If you're a Tennessee fan, there's a lot of moments that you just hated. If there's Florida fans, there's probably more moments that you've loved than hated, but a few that you've really hated. Tennessee has a couple times taken your Florida Gators and prevented them from playing for championships. So, yeah, but that's what makes rivalries great. What makes a rivalry great is both teams at their very best can be national championship good. That makes rivalries better. And a history of one team losing this game, either team, that directly getting in the way of their championship aspirations, that makes a good rivalry. The stakes of it make it, it's not, bragging rights are great, right? I want to beat my idiot brother in everything that we do. Everything. My sister too. Everything that we do, I want to beat them. But so bragging rights are good. But you got to have stakes too. Someone's got to have a little skin in the game. You got to have not just bragging rights. You got to have my team won a championship because it beat yours in this game. Or my team wasn't even that good that year and we kept your team from winning a championship. So how you like them apples? That's what a rival, those are the things. And this rivalry, for the short space of time that it's existed, relatively speaking, has plenty of that. There are Tennessee wins in this series that have prevented Florida from winning or competing for a national championship. And there are Florida wins over Tennessee in this series that prevented very, very, very good, very talented Tennessee teams from even competing at the end of the season for championships. So, and during this time, both of these teams have won multiple SEC titles. Florida multiple natties, Tennessee one natty. These were the before Georgia got its head removed from its posterior and got itself going to what it should always be as a program. This was the game, man. Alabama was kind of in the weeds there for a while. Georgia was kind of stuck in either third gear or then up to fourth gear, but not quite in fifth gear. LSU went through an interesting couple of periods there before they were, hey, we're LSU again. There was nobody else. Auburn was Auburn, so you just never knew year to year. Auburn's the king of we'll win a natty and then we'll just suck for 3 years. That's, hey, things haven't been good for a while, but, we'll go buy Cam Newton and then we'll go win a natty. And then we'll just, again, not be good for a while. And then we'll have another really good quarterback, get a good coach, and we'll have a cycled up year where we're, boom, right there playing for a title again. And then we'll be weird for a while and irrelevant. And so, but there for a time, this was the game. This was the game. Not just in the SEC, it was the game for a decade. In college football, for a good chunk of that decade, the game. And right now, it's it's a game. It was the game Now it's a game. And it's sad that it's kind of going out the way that it is. But the flip side to that, with all the misery Tennessee's had in Gainesville, so much so that over the years, I don't even care what either team's record is. I don't care. You put the 06, 07 Patriots, mid-'80s Bears, put them in Tennessee uniforms, take them down to Gainesville, I'm picking a loss. That's just, I've seen that a lot. And there are a lot of people who are probably in the same camp, people who are actually big Tennessee fans, because I'm sitting here from the media. I'm talking about big Tennessee fans who see this, it's a loss. But you go win this game, Tennessee has a chance this season, as frustrating as it has been. And you can sit here and say all day, hey, this was supposed to be like an 8 or 9 win team. I agreed. That's what I said going into the year. Problem is, then you watch the games. And when you watch the games, you see crystal clear this should be a one-loss football team right now, at most. It should be. Should be a one-loss football team. Oklahoma, I know Oklahoma went down to Bama and won the next week. I know. But Tennessee had no business losing that football game. Georgia game, Tennessee had, 5 chances to make one play and win it? At home, both games. This should be a one-loss football team. So you can sit here all day long and say expectations are what they are, preseason going into it, and I think that does matter. I do think that matters. But this should not be a 3-loss football team. And that is frustrating. And you, the Tennessee fans out there, don't have to listen to anybody tell you it's not. You don't have to listen to one person tell you that, hey, these expectations are what they are. Maybe you're being a little spoiled. No, you're not. You have every right, with the games that we have seen this season, to think this should be a one-loss football team. In the driver's seat to go to the college football playoff, be in the position like Ole Miss is in right now. That's the position Tennessee should be in. And that's not even including Alabama, which, by the way, until one of the most decisive plays I've ever seen there at the end of the half, dude, that's a football game. You're right in that thing. Alabama ain't great. You're right there in that game. So, but I'll count that as an L. Go ahead and put that as an L. Those other 2 L's, they should be wins. So you don't have to listen to anybody talk down to you and tell you you don't have the right to be a little bit cross with this being the way it is. Now, as I said on Tape Room on Sunday night, this isn't like a fire everybody kind of situation. I don't care what happens the next 2 weeks. This is not a clean the house situation. I do think there are some changes that need to be made, just a couple, at least here and there, because you got to fine-tune this. You got to get more discipline. There's some things you just got to do. And it's obviously not been perfect. Like, you can't just sit there and say, hey, it's a great year. Hype, great year. You can't. No, it's not. But whatever happened to, like, just regular disappointment? Or like, ho-hum, that kind of sucked. Let's get him next year. Like, we've got this situation now built up. We got this situation built up to where coaches are getting extended every year. They're getting extensions and raises, or they're getting fired, or their seat's getting warm. One of those 3 things is happening after every season. So we've left no place to put seasons like this one, where it's like, it's not what you wanted, should have been a little better, but expectations were what they were, and, it's not the end of the world. Hey, it's just a couple breaks away from being better. Just go fix those things next year, and you'll be okay. There's nowhere to put that category. Doesn't exist anymore unless we kind of reinvent it. We have to, it'd be like bringing back like a VHS tape. Like, you got to reintroduce this thing. People don't know what this is. People aren't aware that this used to be something that existed. But it's not even like a VHS tape because it's still good. Like, that category exists and it's okay. But as frustrating as this season has been, and again, don't let anybody tell you it's not, because it is. Don't let anybody sit there and tell you don't have a right to be upset. You do. Now, should you be burning things and firing people and being hateful on social media? No, you should not. No, you should not. But you can be upset. But what this season still can do is go in there and end with your first win in Gainesville since 2003. Nothing to sneeze at there. And the last year, this is an annual rivalry, go down there and beat them. That's something. That's tangible. You can take something away from this season if you go do that. You've taken something, some joy out of the season. And then the following week, like that, those social media posts that are like, John Doe has a chance to do the funniest thing here. Tennessee's John Doe. The next week, Tennessee can do the funniest thing, which is completely eliminate Vanderbilt from the college football playoff. And is that funny? Objectively speaking, from a neutral point of view, yes, it is funny. To anybody but a Vandy fan, it'd be for a Vandy fan, it'd be a nightmare. But for Tennessee fans, of course, it's hilarious. I think objectively, for college football writ large, it's sad, but also kind of funny. And so if you're Tennessee, that's what you have in front of you. The next 2 weeks, you actually have something tangible in front of you that you can go do. And even if you lose this week, you still have something tangible you can go do next week. You can go win in Gainesville for the first time in like 22 years or whatever, 23 years, however long it's been. It's a streak that could buy beer. That's how long it's been. And so then you can take what's the best season in your in-state rivals' history in a long time and just soil it. And that, so if I'm sitting here, if I'm a Tennessee fan and I'm trying to go through this situation, that to me, winning these next two games puts something decent on this season. Like, you don't walk away with nothing. That great, probably one of the 10 all-time GIFs that exists on the internet is Denzel Washington. I'm getting out of here with something.
I see you're a GIF person.
Yeah. Oh, just, you can't not be in this era, right? You just see things and you laugh. And they pop up on your phone and friends send them to you and, But it's like, I'm leaving here with something. You're leaving here with something. For Tennessee, you have a chance in the next couple of weeks to leave this season with something. Now, will that change the fact that it is a frustrating season? No. Will it change the fact that you as a Tennessee fan have every right to tell anybody who disagrees with that they are wrong? Doesn't change that. No. You still have a chance to say, guys, this was a frustrating season. I don't care if this was supposed to be 8-4, 9-3. I saw the games. They happened. Were you watching the games? There's a lot of games to watch. So, honest question, were you watching them? Because if you'd watched them, you'd say, that's frustrating. And it's hard. I mean, I'm someone who, I vote on things. I've been on the AP poll. I've been on, I vote for the Heisman every year. I've done the AP All-America team, the rankings, all these things over the years. And, dude, it's hard. Especially you get married, start having kids. Like, it's a lot of games to watch, and it's great. It's the best job in the world, as far as I'm concerned. But you're still having to fast forward and see a lot of things in a lot of games, look at a lot of numbers. At least I am. I think if you vote for anything, you take it seriously, and you should be honest, and you should tell people what you voted for and why you did it. I think that's accountability. And I think there are some people who have these votes who shouldn't have them because they clearly don't know what they're doing. Not that I'm perfect, but like, I'm not just being lazy about it. Like, if I'm voting for something, I'm watching the games. I'm looking at metrics that exist. I'm trying to be serious about it. And so that's a question that I would have and have had with my friends in national media who have kind of said Tennessee fans have been spoiled this season and they don't have a right to be upset about it. No, that's not true. Have you watched the games? I watched them every play. If I'm a Tennessee fan, I'm a little bit upset right now. I'm not burning everything in sight. I'm just saying, that kind of sucks. And I'm moving on. Yeah, it's basketball season. Teams ranked again. Elander Air starts in baseball. Kim Caldwell's got a good team too. Tennessee softball's always in the conversation to get to the World Series, and then inevitably lose to Oklahoma because everyone does. But still get there. And there's a lot to. Tennessee's competing in every sport now. If you're a fan, plus whatever pro teams you like maybe they're going to have a good year. So you don't have to burn everything, but you can be upset. That's fine. But you can walk away with something. And there's value in that. There is. I mean, there's lots of years in my life, as a Cubs fan or an Arsenal fan, by the end of the year, you're like, what's even happening? What's the point of any of this? I'll watch it because I'm a psycho. But, yeah, it's a nice day. Go out and do something. You know what I mean? Go out and do something. Well, why are you subjecting yourself to this? This Tennessee football season is not like that. No matter what happens. The bowl game might be like that. Honestly, it might. I don't know. Whatever it is, it might be like that. But the next 2 weeks are not, because you can go win in Gainesville for the first time in forever. And then you can just pull up your leg and on the fire hydrant of this Vandy season and just soil it. You can do that. I think am I crazy, Tom? That sounds like something tangible to me.
I think so. I think you can hang your season up on that one for sure.
Yeah, you're not going to have a parade, but...
No, but you can at least pat yourself on the back that it was, you managed it. Right?
Yes.
You managed it.
Because if you are... Now, I would say this is where I think personally and sports-wise, my opinions diverge on this. Because I think personally, when you yourself are in a bad situation, the worst thing you can do, we've all done it, we usually don't mean to, but you take other people around you and you try to drag them into it. You try to you make them miserable too, so they understand how much agony you're going through in the moment, right? Subconsciously, people who do it intentionally, they're just bad people. But people who don't mean to do it, it happens, but you don't it's not good. But now sports wise, if my team is miserable, the very best thing that I can do is make you just as miserable. That's what I can do. I'm not going to like this offseason. It was not a fun season. It could have been more, yada, yada. We'll see what next season's like. And before you get to that period where you're ramping up and getting excited for the next season, you kind of got to put your emotions and frustrations from the other one to bed, right? Spend more time with the family. Remember that they exist. You do things. You do things. But the best thing you can do in sports is make sure that the teams you dislike are as unhappy as they can be going into the offseason too. That is the motivation. It's the motivation. I think
it's one way of looking at it, I guess.
No, I don't. That's why personally, and then sports wise,
I feel like it didn't used to
different things.
Didn't used to be this way. Maybe before the playoff format.
Really?
I feel like I don't know. Now it feels like if it feels like you have a low chance or no chance of getting in the playoffs, it's like the equivalent of garbage time at the end of the season.
Well, the good argument, and it goes, and I think it's a good debate, is do you cheer for other teams in your league, like in the postseason and in other games like that? Because you could argue that them doing well helps the image of your league, which helps your recruiting. But you could also say that it doesn't matter because that just means that team's still going to have a better chance of getting players that you and they both want. So, and you just don't want to see a rival fan base happy. So it's like, it's. I see both sides of that argument, and frankly, I don't know that one is superior to the other. I don't know enough to really have. I can't sit here and say maybe what I'm leaning one way or the other, but I don't know that conclusively which way is better.
Yeah, it's fair, and but even before the playoff structure, it's still.
But emotionally,
emotionally, it's still
a big deal.
Emotionally,
I think about this. As a Cubs fan, I never want the Cardinals to win anything. I want them to go.
Do I tell them?
I want them to go 0-162. I don't wish injuries on anybody, but I want them to lose every game they ever play, and I want them to lose it 100-0. That's what I want.
I went to school out in Missouri, right? I formed because there really wasn't a whole fan base where I was from.
Hey, the toasted ravioli is
Telling
great.
you.
The toasted ravioli is great, and I like Conzo Martin. He's from St. Louis. Other than that, it's a family thing, man. It's St. Louis is
the rivalry as bitter as they come. I feel like
it's the same thing with me with like for the Cubs. I mean for Arsenal with Tottenham Hotspur, and for the U.S. national team with the Mexico national team. Like I don't want the chief rival of my favorite teams to ever win anything. And if you have a chance, like if the Cubs went into a season at the end of it, they couldn't win the pennant. Or they couldn't win the division. They couldn't get to the playoffs. But the Cardinals could, and you go there or they come to your place and you beat them, and they don't get to be in the playoffs either. Just that to me is almost, I'm not proud to admit this, almost as enjoyable.
It's part of the game.
As my own team's success, the rival's failure is almost, it almost creates the same sensation going through this body. It just does. That's me personally. So I'm not going to sit here and say I don't get it. Oh, I get it. So if you're Tennessee, that means that you can leave this season with something. And if you're the players, you can leave here with something. You can do something at the end of this frustrating season that matters. Winning down in Gainesville matters. Knocking Vandy out of the playoff matters. All of these things matter. And so we've not talked a lot about Tennessee, Florida this week until today, honestly. We'll talk about it more the next couple of days, most likely. But if these Tennessee coaches and players understand how much they still have to play for, I think there's a chance they could play pretty well the next couple of weeks if they're in that mind space. We'll find out if they are or not. But if they're in that headspace, I think they could channel something and they could have something for these next 2 weekends. They're going to need it because they're going to have to play well to win both games better than they have been. So we'll have more to talk about that the next couple of days. We got a lot going on, obviously. Another basketball game for the men on Thursday night. More to discuss there. Estrella's injury, etc. Lots of fun stuff to discuss, and we'll get to it. But until then, we'll get back to it in about 23 hours. So we'll see you, in about 23 hours. Thanks for watching.